Hey, Bullet Hole family, and y'all that listen to the Bullet Hole podcast. I'm Lyle Cadell, the media manager here at the Bullet Hole again. And we're blessed today to have one of my friends and if you're maybe been sleeping under a rock, you don't know who Steve is, but that's okay. We'll introduce him. Steve Fisher is the owner and the man who runs Sentinel Concepts, and I want to ask him too a little bit to give a little bio. But if you've been around the industry or seen some of the stuff, you've probably seen some of the things that potentially Steve's worked on at times.
Yeah.
He does work with some different companies and stuff. But, I mean, Steve, where did it all start out at Magpul back, or even before that?
Geez. Even before that, realistically, I've been working for a company out of Michigan called NTFT back in the late 90s. Local place, we did a lot of local training stuff. And then I branched out on my own, started my own company through the mid 2000s. And then I left that, sold that in like 2009 era to go to Magpul. Went to Magpul, worked there for about 4 years, amazing time. Worked with some great dudes, had some great opportunities there. Then 2014 started up my own program again, and here we are. And through the years, I've worked with a lot of good manufacturers. I've either consulted, shot products for them, gave feedback. I've helped with some design stuff through others over the years. I've been with everybody from, at some point, paid by Surefire, Trivicon. I've worked for Midwest Industries. I've worked with FN. I'm currently working with Knights Armament, Nighthawk, Chambers Custom, Agency Arms. I work with a lot of people, a lot of places. So,
well, man,
and Vortex.
Yeah, and we're working with Vortex right now. So, and I've been blessed to get to know Steve over the last 3 years. So, and learn a few things from him. So, and I've even tried to get him to have classes here in the state.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Still pulling at your leg, brother.
It's all good. It's all good.
So, one of the things that you're known for is RDSs on handguns, and that's, you think that's really probably the wave or the future in handguns?
It's interesting that people always say that, right? They always bring that up, that it's the future, it's the wave of the future, it's going to be this. We started shooting, my first red dot on a pistol was in 1999.
Oh my goodness.
On a Smith & Wesson, Smith / Wesson 5906 with basically what was then Bushnell, slash whoever, on a dovetail mount, the old Bushnell, whatever it was, somebody, whatever, Elite 2000, or the Tasco Optima 2000. I'm sorry, Bushnell. The Tasco Optima 2000 is where I started in 99. We can trace back red dots on pistols going back into the 80s, wow. Even earlier on bullseye shooter guns with some of the original aim point, like 2000 and 5000 models. They were very popular in the wad shooters. So this is nothing new, right? Everybody's all on the internet, for the past 5 years going, red dots, wave of the future. I'm like, hey, bro, they've been here for 30 years. We've already had these. Some of us have been shooting them since they first, came on scene, to be, bluntly real. Doesn't mean I know everything about them. It just means I have a lot of experience with the lineage and the history of them on a various amount of platforms through the years. And it's not that they're the future, it's that the technology is just getting better. They're getting smaller, they're getting more reliable. It's not uncommon now to see dots going upwards of 50,000+ to more rounds, with great success and reliability. Early on, there were some issues with electronics. The G-forces they were taking under recoil was breaking the electronics packages. So we saw these things, which we knew, though. We knew this was going to happen because they weren't originally designed to be put on pistols. Reciprocating slides, G-forces hitting slide stops, causing shock and abrupt stoppages. So these were all very real things that have been addressed over the years through either Trivicon, Hollow Sun, Aimpoint, Loophole, any of the big manufacturers, Vortex, are all addressing this issue, right? It's going to be a thing that for the foreseeable future, it's going to be odd to see iron sights on a pistol.
Okay. And I didn't realize, quite honestly, that they had been around that long. That's my
Yeah,
honest opinion.
they've
Um,
just gotten smaller. You know,
yeah.
they've just gotten smaller.
Back in the day, was it a tubular design? Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So I wish I had my other one laying around here. It's out someplace. If you were to look at it, it would have been kind of the equivalent of like putting a flashlight along the top of the gun.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, it literally was like, there we go. We've
Holy
got our
crap.
optic.
Yeah.
Like they were the length of the 5-inch government model gun, basically, and maybe slightly smaller depending, but it was quite a thing that we're now to this.
Hmm.
So
And you're a big Holliston fan, I can see.
I am. I am.
What what drew you from the RMR to Holliston?
Well, I still shoot them all. I have
Yeah.
aim points, hollow suns, loopholes, um, vortex, Trivicons. I've got them all. I have to. I've got quite a collection array of them in the safes with all the various types of guns because I need to have them, right?
Hmm.
Because different people that I either contract with, teach with, what have you, they all run different ones, and that's fine. The thing with the Hollow Sun was this: I don't get paid by them. I was given one early on to put a lot of rounds through to give them feedback. No big deal.
Hmm.
Very common. I have since then purchased probably close to, I don't know, another 15 of them.
Hmm.
Plus, I've got about 30, 35 guns with dots on them, pistols. And I purchased a lot of them. Reason being cost. You know, they're half the
Yeah.
cost of most of the other red dots on the market. They're reliable. They're durable. We've seen some of these go over 100,000 rounds on test guns that finally failed after 100,000,
And
which is unheard of.
they don't use the plate as the contact, do they?
No,
So and that's one of
no.
the interesting things about
Yeah, their original models had a circular enclosed battery box on the bottom.
them.
All the newer models have side battery boxes,
Yeah.
which makes it even better now, which is great. And the only reason, honestly, I was looking for an alternative that was going to be durable, reliable, relatively inexpensive, versus paying $600 for an optic that I was sending back every, once, twice a year because they were constantly either I was losing emitter glass, electronics were going down. Some were better than others. It was random. There was no rhyme or reason, but it's still something man-made. It can fail no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So it's not a dig on one company or another. It was just I needed something that was proven more reliable, that was a little bit less on the cost side, because I'm not going to outfit umpteen different pistols with the same dot as the dots are changing, dot colors, dot technology, dot reticles. So needed something different where some companies are still stuck in lineage and history that they've always done,
Hmm.
while others have progressed and surpassed them. So it's a very real thing. And, people will bag on this product being made offshore or this product this.
Right.
If they only knew behind the scenes how much of the circuitry, electronics, and other packages were actually in from overseas that are in those U.S.-made optics from
Yeah.
a lot of companies. Look, stop it. I get it, but people, be real. So dots are important to me, either for use under night vision, hunting, aging eyes, um, unorthodox positions, one-handed shooting, anything I do with the gun. We put red dots on carbines, we put them on shotguns. There's no reason for them not to be on a pistol. No
That
reason for them not to be.
and that kind of segues into like a second thing. And people, and I don't have a red dot pistol, a red dot on a pistol right now. I did have one on a revolver that I hunted with,
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was, man, that's been, trying to think. That's been quite a while ago. That's been over almost 10 years or more ago.
I still have one sitting on a Ruger Super Red Hawk in the safe somewhere.
It was a 686 Smith, 6-inch, and
Mm-hmm.
deer hunted with that. Is a red dot for everybody?
I will say the people that say no, it's not, are the people that have never given them a fair shake, or they don't understand them, or they talk about, oh, it's slow, it's hard to pick up the dot, it's hard to do this. Because you took it out one time, you tried to do something that you're probably already not quite capable of doing efficiently all the time. They're gonna knock it. They're not going to. And is it for everybody? No. Cost can be prohibitive.
Mm.
Especially in today's times. I get that. I understand that. That's why we always look for alternate options that may not be as costly as a $500-$600 optic. But a lot of factory guns that guys buy come with plate systems now. So milling is not an extra cost. The only cost now is the dot. And to be honest, if you can shortcut the improvement time, show better consistency, accuracy, times, speed, why wouldn't you invest in it when that means you could invest in less ammunition, especially right now? Change the power curve, get there sooner. There's no reason, honestly, not to. And again, cost is kind of the biggest factor that everybody talked about starting out in 2007, 8, when the RMRs came on scene. And everybody was kind of like, well, these are expensive, and now I got to get my gun cut. Well, yeah, you had to then. Now, almost every manufacturer has a plate system. So from Glock to 1911 to Smith & Wesson to Ruger to whoever. So
that's another question to be asked. I mean, we sell a lot of different guns here, of course, in the shop. I mean, everything from CV, M&P, Glock, Springfield, you name it, we got it. And including Nighthawk, we're a Nighthawk dealer. If you had your preferences of putting, and I know you hunt with a 10 mil generally, and 1911 platform. Steve believes that God's gun is
best gun ever.
Yeah,
it's the best gun. Still the best gun ever. Still the best gun ever.
It's I'm sure there's people that argue. But two world wars, man. 2 world wars.
Exactly. It definitely helped. That's for certain.
But anyhow, I mean, would you rather be on a polymer gun or a steel gun? Are there pros and cons there, or even with because you got to get a cut generally now? I mean, like a Nighthawk, some of them are coming out with Nighthawk is now coming out with pre-cut stuff.
Yeah, the iOS plate.
Yeah, is Joe doing some pre-cut stuff too?
Joe as well with his MRDS plate system. That gun is actually upstairs sitting in my hunting pack right now, or I'd have it out here with me, my 10 mil Chambers gun, and even the Glock 40 with the MOS system in the 10 millimeter. They all have, and honestly, it's user preference, right? I don't care. I shoot them all. I use them all. I like to be proficient with them all. I'm a diehard 1911 guy. I love 1911s, and that's primarily what I hunt with. A lot of times I carry it as well. So it is my go-to, and they all have a system, right? So you have the Nighthawk iOS, you have Chambers with his MRDS, you have a Trivicon plate for the 1911s, you have guns coming from the factory with them as well, such as Springfield Armory. I believe Ruger has one as well with a plate cut. I don't remember off the top of my head. Glock's notorious MOS plate system. So everybody has a way, and there's really no reason not to do it anymore.
And it's you're getting the reps in, and you can do a lot of that. I am supposing dry fire.
Correct.
To be able to, really, and you're dealing with a different angle there between the 1911 and the Glock.
A bit.
And that's the one thing that I've heard over and over again from guys is, man, I can't, and I've had trouble too, and exactly what I'm fixing to say. I pull it up and I'm like doing this number, trying to find the dumb thing, and so they just kind of throw it out the window. What do you say to those guys?
I say they, for the most part, have always had a bad presentation and a bad grip on the gun. Anytime I see dudes, and I will often put both guns in their hands, and I will watch them pick up their iron sight pistol and be like, okay, there they are. And then I give them the red dot pistol, and they're like, well, it's because you do the same thing. You're searching for something else. You're changing body positions. You treat these much like you do a carbine, right? You target focus. You look at what you're going to shoot. You ID it. You see it. You mount the carbine to it, and your dot is there. Obviously, you have a third point of contact. Makes it a little bit easier. The problem becomes when guys start swimming in the grip, and they start throwing this out there, and they hit the brakes, and the gun nose dives, and like, oh, my dot's really high, or I can't find it. And they start fishing for it. I'm like, it's because your presentation is horrible, and it's always been your presentation. If you simply would just take the pistol, unloaded, no big deal, and look at the target, and if you focus on the target and bring the gun to your eyes and not move your head, the dot will be where your eyes are looking. You present the gun to your eyes, to where your eyes are focused, and the dot is there. It's not hard. Uh-oh. What did I lose? Sorry,
Steve
that's
Stone.
me. Yep, that's me. I don't know what happened. There it is.
Okay.
For some reason, my system kicked off. Probably a call coming in.
Um,
So the
Go ahead.
problem is people don't. Yeah, the people just don't give it a good shake. They don't give it a fair shake. They don't understand it. They don't understand their presentation. Because like, I've been shooting for 25 years. I know my presentation. Okay, well, your presentation was terrible with iron sights. It's going to be terrible with a red dot.
Hmm.
If you simply threat focus, put the gun into your eyes where your eyes are looking, you're good, and it will be there. And I fix that in every single class I teach, and it takes 5 minutes of life and 10 dry fire presentations, and guys have got it. So
See,
grip angle.
we need you here at the bullet hole, Steve, to teach the dot.
Hey,
I'm
can fill it. I'll do it.
I'm pulling on your leg, man.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
But because I think it's a need here. But anyhow, you know, too, you look at it's interesting, these little micro, if I say micro, these subcompacts that are coming in. What's your feelings on that? Like whether it's the Hellcat, the Shield, even now we've got Glock has gone on the 48 and the 43.
I think it's the best thing that happened to microguns since the microgun. Legitimately, I carry a Glock 48 or a 43X frequently and a SIG 365. All the dots. I still have one with an iron sight set up on it because I still shoot irons. It's absolutely a must on the smaller guns. I won't say a must. How about this? I won't say a must, but I will say it definitely enhances the shootability of the smaller gun with the smaller sight radiuses.
Does it take away from the deviation factor out to distance on a small gun?
No, I've shot my little guns out to 100 yards on BC's own steel. Not a problem.
Well, no, I'm saying, does it help?
Absolutely.
Does it not help? Because iron sight.
Yes, absolutely.
Deviation, that's just
correct.
And maybe explain that for folks that are watching here. You and I are talking, gun talk here, but if you're shooting something out at 20, 25 yards, or maybe even 15 beginning, and you have a 3-inch pistol, explain that, the deviation and what happens.
For a lot of guys, it's going to be dependent on ammo, the sights, the way they shoot the gun. A bad trigger press is a bad trigger press. A bad grip is a bad grip. You're always going to have some form of air. The smaller guns can also be what I would consider steered a little bit easier incorrectly because of the grip. So you don't have as much surface area. You don't have as much contact. You can't fit it as well as you could a full-size frame gun. So that causes a lot of that deviation in swimming because of that grip not being as large to fill the hands. So for a lot of people, they have that issue. What the dot ultimately does, it takes away that sight radius. It takes away me playing the sight game, target game, sight game, target game, sight game, and swimming all around, whereas I have one focal point, and that's just the dot. All I have to do is place the dot over the target and press the trigger, and that's it. And it's going to move. Guys like, well, it moves. Well, yeah, it's going to move. You just see it more because you don't see it as well with your iron sights. It's not projected, right? Or kind of floating there. So that is another real thing for a lot of shooters with dots. But they are truly, I think, the best thing for a microgun outside of some very particulars. But I think it's ultimately the best thing you could add to a small pistol.
I've been playing around with the Springfield Hellcat OS here at the shop, just playing around with it. It just feels good in the hand, and it just presents well. And I have not. I carry a shield on occasion, and I haven't got the opportunity to actually have the actual shield RMS or something like that, or a SIG, little SIG, or what is it, R1 or whatever it is, on a shield to see what that's like. But it does really intrigue me because of the deviation factor. I have trouble with deviation factor, at distance with a shield. It's an up close gun for me, and that's when I carry it. And then I carry a full size Glock 45 the rest of the time. But no, I think that's really interesting. And I was just in a class with Glock actually, or about almost a month ago, and they were really talking up their 43X and 48
Mhm.
venture into the optics realm, and that's interesting. The on the rifle side of things too. I mean, we've been dealing with the handgun side of things, and maybe we might revert back to that here in a second. But
Sure.
on the rifle side of things, eh, well, let me finish this up with the acro, and then
Mhm.
I want to deal with that, the acro, and then the new oh crud, what is Hollison's enclosed?
509.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Having an enclosed emitter?
I'm a big fan of closed emitters. I have 509s. I've been shooting one since last SHOT Show. So I've had one for well into a year now, and it's had a lot of rounds to it. I also have acros. I like closed emitters, especially for an LE capacity, mil capacity, where it's going to be exposed to elements a lot longer, a lot more often, or more often than not, versus a concealed carry gun, where it's going to be concealed and then come out in time to go shoot. Um, I like them. I like them a lot. I think they're very important for a few factors. People are kind of hesitant again. Oh, it looks like a bread box on a gun. Well, honestly, it's the same size as this optic. It's just finely enclosed. It's
Yeah.
nothing different, people. The closed emitters have a tendency to draw people's eyes into the center better and pick up the dot better as well, or sooner. Not so much better, but picking up the dots easier and sooner. I like them. I like them enough that I have a couple of acros. I have a couple of 509s on guns, and I really, really, really believe that if you're going to spend a lot of time outdoors, woods gun, hiking gun, duty gun, yeah, law enforcement, mill gun, yeah, absolutely.
That's
Closed
good.
emitter is the way to go.
And I think that's probably another thing that holds people back from buying. We sell a lot of Hollison,
Sure.
507s are in around here, but the thing that kind of holds people back is, well, that thing's open, and if I get mud in it, if I get dust in it, and my lint for my belly button, it's
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not going to be able to see it, and so having the closed emitter
Yeah.
is it's a selling point. You know.
It is. It absolutely is, and it's a great selling point, and it is an awesome optic to have. Like I said, I like the closed emitters. Honestly, I bought another 509 sitting back there that's replacing this one on my G20,
Oh.
which is a woods walk around gun a lot, or sorry, G40. This is the long one. So I'm replacing this 507 with a 509 for my hunting and my walk around woods gun, because it's going to be exposed to more and more elements.
Well, just so people know, you live in Michigan, and so
yeah,
and you've killed how many this year with a handgun? Deer, that is.
3.
Okay, and then
three with a pistol.
And then what did you say? Did you take your 4570 out this last here recently?
Yeah, took my 4570 out. No, I did. Took it out this last week for a hunt up in the rifle zone. Killed a couple with that as well, with a red dot on it. And then so it's very versatile, very useful. They're a great tool. You can't argue the benefits of them.
What would be the downside? I mean, be honest. What would be the downside for a concealed carrier?
Nothing.
Okay. Even
there isn't. I mean, people will say even up close. Up close with the gun, I'm getting a flashlight picture. I see the dot. I'm pressing the trigger. Most people, by their perception of being slow, is because they're trying to center the dot. They want to center the dot in the window, and it has to be perfect. It doesn't. It can float anywhere in the window, up, down, left, right, 4 corners, and will be there. Just shoot the dot. Stop trying to get the dot perfect. It doesn't have
the training comes in.
Yeah.
And acclimating the brain to the fact that it can move, and it's going to hit.
And it will. We demo that in every class.
Yeah, and that's why we'd love to have you here. But anyhow, and people have had it on the rifle for years. They'll throw a vortex. I have a vortex crossfire in one of my rifles, and I have I can't remember what the other little red dots on my wife's. Honestly, I can't remember what it is. But anyhow, she has a vortex on hers, and I've been a big fan of vortex on my rifles for years. here I am wearing a Vortex hat that they gave me. But anyhow, full disclosure.
Nice.
But you know, and we're used to the fact of going through maybe a carbine class or something like that, and leaning over and pulling the shot. You know, not pulling the shot, but making the shot and having the dot that's not in the center of the tube, and it's still on target. But I think with pistols, our brains, maybe, I don't know, you know better than I do, our brains kind of screwed up on that.
What a lot of it is people's inability to grip the gun properly and press the trigger well, that they will miss the shots. The dot is a dot. It's a window. It's all it is. It's a piece of glass with a dot projected in it, regardless if it's on a carbine or a handgun. There's going to be movement. It's going to swirl. You get it as close as possible. You press the trigger. There's definitely a point in time for an absolute sight picture, and there's definitely a time for an acceptable sight picture.
What do you zero on your handguns at right now with the dot?
25 yards for everything. Everything is 25. Even on my hunting guns, especially the 10 millimeters, it's a flat enough cartridge for the rounds that I shoot to get me out to what I need, like maximum point blank range, about 75 yards. That I'm totally comfortable with it at those distances on animals. Under perfect conditions, generally most of my hunting shots with a pistol are inside of 50. I have had some that have been longer. 70 odd is my longest, like 72 odd yards is my longest with a pistol, but everything was right. That deer was stationary, sitting in a field, just gnawing away on corn stalks and doing what it does. And I had a good rest in my blind off my stand on that one. And yeah, everything was perfect. You know, it was the ultimate time to take that shot, and I did, and it killed the deer just fine.
Yeah.
So most of my shots have been inside of 50 yards. I've had a few outside 50 to 60 yards. I recently had one that was a headshot at 41 yards. So it was an injured deer that had came out. It's either somebody that tried to get funky with one of the shots on it, or they tried to, or got gored by another buck. Had a really bad eye injury, and he was there briefly and offered me one good shot looking on, and I pressed the shot and done and over. But I also shoot a lot out to distances with my guns.
Right.
I practice pretty religiously at 50 yards with a handgun. It's to me, 50 is the new 25, and that's where I live, honestly, with my guns.
Why do you? I mean, why do you say that? What's the psychology?
Because I have a dot, I have capabilities, and I have abilities. And so for me, that performance is very real. It's also relevant, I think, to today's society, especially in big box stores and other places that people go defensively, quote unquote, or offensively. You should be capable as the gun. And honestly, for most people, there's a lot of people who can't shoot beyond 10 because they think everything's just going to be up close and personal. That's great. There are others that understand things happen at distances. So for me, though, it's an ultimate skill builder to shoot at 50 and be consistent enough to score on a B8 like we do at 25. If I can consistently shoot like an 85 to 90 at 50 yards on a B8, I'm very happy with that. Ultimately, I try to keep everything in the USPSA A zone at 50 yards. I'm quite successful with that because I spend a lot of time there.
Now,
and it makes things much easier up close.
Like me, I mean, we're getting older. They told me this year that I needed progressive lenses, and I didn't like that too well. It's either progressives or bifocals, and I went with single vision, and now I'm regretting it, and I'm actually going to have to go back to my eye doctor and go to progressives.
Listen to your doctor, Lau. Listen to your doctor.
It's bad. He told me. I was like, well, what is there something, you know, I have diabetes. So I thought, well, is it something related to my diabetes? You know, and he says, no, you're just getting old. Well, thanks, man. I love you too.
It's life, man. We're all getting there. I mean, I'm 50, going on 51.
Yeah.
And you know, my eyes changed. I had surgery done way back in the day for RK, stuff like that, way back when. And you know, I turned 47-ish, and everything started to kind of fall apart with the eyes a little bit. So you know, I went and got the glasses done. I'm like, okay. And the problem for me is right here. It's not out here. So for me, it's this.
Yeah, I'm the other way around.
So my distance vision is fine unless I have to focus on an iron sight.
Yeah, if I can read and everything, everything's fine up front. But with the red dot,
Mhm.
and at distance, that's
Yeah.
where I've thought about, you know, okay, so if I'm pressing out on something that, I mean, on a B8, I don't know if folks understand what a B8 target, it's not very,
5.5-inch center.
yeah. And so putting it out at a B8, is that would be challenging for me, honestly, for my eyes. I'm
Yeah.
just being real.
Yeah.
And I haven't tried it as much, and maybe I need to.
You should. The dot is real. The
I think
dot
the
makes
dot
life
would probably help
easier.
you. I smoked a
Oh,
deer. I think I told you this. I smoked a deer 2 years ago at 175 yards with a dot.
mhm. Yeah.
People look at me like, "You did what?" I will say
I,
I shot over his back. I was going for a next shot. I shot over the back the first round, and then I adjusted. I was rested on a fence post, pressed the second shot. He hit the floor.
I,
Um, and that was with a 30 mil tube. That would be
mhm.
it was I think in the strike fire a 30 mil tube.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
And it can be done. And
Oh, absolutely, it can.
you know, the other and moving into the carbine just a little bit. I want to with the time that we have
Sure.
left. I want to move into the carbine. You're a big proponent of LVPOs. I know that just from talking with you and everything, but LVPOs are the game, right?
They're part of the game. They're part of the game. So where the low powered variable really comes into play, again, aging eyes are real.
LPVOs.
While
I
some
said
people,
LVPOs. I'm sorry.
that's all right. The beauty is, I get more positive identification.
Hmm.
I get better positive identification in low light, with white light, ambient lighting. I won't say I don't change the inherent accuracy of the gun because that's impossible, but it allows me to see better, which allows me to shoot more efficiently and effectively. Those people with stigmatisms that see comets and cupids and squirrely things in there can always adjust the focus,
That's me.
make it better, make it cleaner, make it better. Um, and a truly good low powered variable optic set up correctly is a red dot. It's just magnified. Once you start going through the power settings, especially with today's crop of red dot low powered variable optics, such as there's the Strike Eagles, there's the PST series, there's the Razor lineups. Um, I still like red dots on carbines. Absolutely do. Still love them and enjoy them. Carbines, absolutely still shoot them out to distances. Great times.
Do you run?
Inherently, oh yeah, I
You
run a lot.
realize that? Wow.
Yeah, I still shoot them all. But I do. Most of my primary guns all have a low-powered variable optic of some sort on them, and I've been shooting them. There's pictures going back to the Magpul era of me shooting Schmidt and Bender short dots on guns. There's pictures from before that where I was shooting Swarovskis and Schmitts on there as well. I've tried pretty much everything that is on the market for the most part, except some of the stuff from Primary Arms. So I've shot a lot of them, and over the years, I've just come to settle on one particular set of optics that's kind of a do-all for me. So,
I mean, with Vortex, I mean, I know that you have a good relationship with them.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
which one of the? I know there's the high end, you have the Razor,
Sure.
1 to 10, incredible piece of
Mm-hmm.
glass. My gosh,
Yeah.
I've actually got to handle that thing, and he's got one right there.
It's one of my spares.
Yeah, that's a 35
the
mil tube, isn't it? Though.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
But if somebody was looking for a mid range, what would you steer them towards? In the
I would steer them towards. I would steer them towards the Viper PST Gen 2s. The 1-to-6 Viper 30 mil tube is a great optic. I've beaten these up pretty heavily. They're great. I ultimately have no qualms about this optic being for a patrol gun, house gun, hunting gun. I've used them on pretty much everything. Guys don't need to go to the Razor if they want a Razor. Yeah, it's more rugged, more durable. Absolutely is. Whereas the PST series, the Vipers, do an amazing job. They're great. Their price point is good. I like them. I've got a couple of them, and I've got them on several guns as well as the Razor lineup. And I let students play with them. Like, wow. I mean, yep, the Razor's a little bit more durable, some better clarity. But ultimately, they're both a quality optic that people cannot go wrong with either one based on what they can afford.
What mount are you using there? Is it a Vortex mount?
No, these are Knights armaments. So I shoot for Knights. Obviously, I work with them for them, I should say. So I use a lot of their products. Obviously, I've used mounts from ADM, Midwest, Badger, Knights, Geisley, Leupold, Vortex, Spur, you name it. I've probably got it on the gun on the wall somewhere, and they've all been very reliable. They've all held well when set to proper torque specs. Some call for Loctite, some do not.
Mm-hmm.
I just basically, that thing that nobody reads, the owner's manual that tells you all that stuff. And then you get one of these Brownells inch-pound wrenches that are set. And you're like, oh, they say 18 inch-pounds. Cool. I set it to 18. I crank it. I set it. I forget it. And that's it.
Yeah.
So if people learn to properly set them up and mount them, they'll be absolutely fine. In any of today's current mounts, Bobro, a lot of them. There's just a ton of good mounts out there that somebody will find in their price point that will work for them.
Did you know the Badger was just across the river from us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they make great mounts. I've got another one sitting over there in a box somewhere, and it's just they're outstanding. They're a great company.
Yeah. So kind of
they've been around a long time.
Yeah, they have. To circle back around, if a guy's starting out, they maybe got him in 17 MOS or 19 MOS or 45. I think there's a 45 MOS now from Glock, or 34, whatever, or they got him an M&P or a 509 tactical or whatever, And he was like, "Well, what red dot should I start out with? I mean, what I don't know. You've got them in the case here. You've got Hollisons. You've got, in fact, we carry Bushnells and some other ones in the case. What do I start out with?
I would base that on their price point and frequency of shooting. If it's a carry gun, if it's a play gun, I'm also of the buy once, cry once mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't afford it, this month, I'll save for another month and I'll buy it. I'll skip some other things, but Holosun is a great one to start out with. Price point wise, they're in the $200 to $300 price point, depending on which model you get and where it is in the universe you're buying it from. They're solid, they're rugged, they're reliable, they're durable. They have an RMR footprint, so it fits most of the existing guns that are out there with those mounting systems. I have no qualms about that. And if guys are like, hey, I would rather just spend the money and do a Burris Fastfire or a Vortex Viper Venom, whatever, to try this out and not spend $300 or whatever the case is, great, do it. Just be aware that there are some differeces and some features that may make your life easier, with the locking setup on them or how they adjust. You're not undoing two little screws, resetting it, relocking it, readjusting, relocking, resetting, which is often frustrating to people. So just be aware of that. But it's pretty much a price point thing, whatever the card can handle, and that's where you go.
The other thing is we have a lot of competition shooters around here. We are the home for everything from IDPA to USPSA. Here at the range, we are the largest indoor shooting range in Kansas City metro area. So if you were looking at, there went Steve's phone again.
Yeah, phone calling. Everybody's always calling me.
Maybe they're looking to get above the end of the limited class or whatever it is, that whether would you push them towards Trivicon for that?
I would tell them. So competitively, I like a larger window.
Yeah.
For a lot of the shooters, so I would tell them, look at the Trivicon SRO. Look at some guys are liking the new Sig, or I think it's the Romeo 5 has a bigger window. I don't keep up with their stuff a whole lot for reasons. Delta Point Pro, those three all have a large window. They pick up a lot more information through the window, and they're great, right? They absolutely are. So I would definitely steer them towards the Delta Point Pro or the SRO, absolutely.
But duty use, I haven't heard exceptional things duty use for a Delta Point Pro, but in the SRO as well. But if you're on the just hitting it out there on the circuit and you're just shooting steel and paper, I've heard really good things. But no, we deal with all kinds of folks that are tuning in, or they're we're dealing with them
Sure.
on the retail level, and then on the rifle level, we're fixing to be hooked up with Vortex in a strong way, hopefully, and I hope to maybe we can throw some of those PSTs out there, man.
It's a great optic. I use one on one of my hunting guns. I use one on my critter gun around the farm here.
I know you have a 22 Win Mag, don't you, for the around the farm? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a 22 Win Mag Ruger All American and a Rossi 22 mag semi-auto that I just picked up, which is absolutely an amazing gun.
That's what it was. I saw the other day from you that I.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple 22 mags around that I use for stuff, and I've got PSTs on them, and they're great. They're absolutely awesome.
Well, man, you have any other knowledge bombs or Yeti bombs, as they call them, man, to drop on?
Man, it's get out there, seek out some good training in them. There's a lot of good, reliable, competent instructors out there that understand these things. But give it a fair shake. Give the dot world a shake. Give it a chance. I think most people who are hesitant will understand once they get some more education on them. Same thing with the optics. Don't be afraid to spend the money and take that dive into. And that's another thing about going to classes, right? You can try all these out. I'll get guys ask me all the time, like, hey, if you're coming to this course, can I try this? Can I try that? Like, yeah, I'll bring that particular gun for you with that particular dot, no problem, or that particular optic. That's the beauty of working with Vortex in my capacity, is that, yeah, I've got guns with their dots. I've got guns with their PSTs to the 1 to 10 razor to the 4.5 to 27 on some other guns. So I have the gamut of them that guys can look through and play with in courses. Everything from the crossfire dots to some of the new stuff that's coming out here in about a month that people will see. I've got a few of them laying around that are kind of interesting. The one of the other ones that's coming out, I just used recently on some stuff, and it was absolutely great.
You like the Huey too, by the way?
I love the Huey 2. It is on. I've been shooting that for quite a while, and the UH1s. The UH2 I like because of the night vision setting, bigger window, a little bit lighter weight. That's on one of my primary class guns, teaching guns, and I absolutely love that thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll all see what's coming down the pike from them, and it sucks that we don't have a shot this year. A little bit.
Oh no! Everybody is happy that there's no SHOT Show.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I've heard otherwise, but that's okay. You've had some interesting experiences at SHOT Show. We'll just put it that way.
I've had a lot of them over the years. Since I've been going since about 2006 or 7. But no, believe it or not, a lot of the industry guys are happy that there's no shot this year. Believe it or not, there's a lot of them that are just like, well, that's for us, 10 days of our life.
Yeah. And it's like for us as a company here at Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing, as those who tune into the podcast know, is based right here out of the Bullet Hole, and it cost us a big dime, it's a pretty big dime, to go out there. But
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is, and it's good relationships, it's good times. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And to have a drink with somebody or whatever, and to meet up with friends and industry people. But it costs a boat ton of money to do that stuff. So
it does.
It helps Jim, our owner, that he doesn't have to go.
Sure. Yeah, you got to think of what it costs you guys, and then double, quadruple that, plus the booth space and everything else that costs these companies millions of dollars to be there. And out of the office for 2 weeks. It's taxing. People think it's a great time, but for those of us on the back side of it and the booth side and behind it, it's a lot of time. There's a lot of money that goes into that. It's a big, investment
for SHOT this year. Really, what's
that?
Which kind of be your alternative for SHOT? I mean, kind of how are you going to interact?
I interact with most of my people anyways, pretty regularly, phone calls, emails, Zooms, chat meetings like everybody else. Worst comes to worst, I'll get in a truck or I'll get on a plane and I'll drive down and see people when I need to. But for me, a lot of it is, the meetings that goes into product development, new product design, things that I have to look at, client meetings, those can all be done over the phone. It's always convenient to be there face to face a lot of times with guys, or to see them when we're there. But ultimately, and the real reason most people go to SHOT Show, especially like on our side of the house, is that we get to see buddies we haven't seen in a year,
Right.
or every 6-8 months kind of thing. So we get to go and see some of our friends that are always doing the same thing we are, where we never have time to cross paths unless it's at an event, a show, a shoot, a photo shoot, something along those lines. So for a lot of us, it's like, there's business, don't get me wrong, but then there's the downtime, personal time that we get to spend together hanging out. And that's basically what a lot of us have talked about. Like, man, it's going to just be, oh, yeah, we'll get together and we'll go see each other wherever this year. So there is a lot of that part of it, though. That's the behind the scenes stuff that people don't realize. For a lot of us, it's a good time to get together, have dinner, sit down.
Yeah.
And the FaceTime that we normally have. So
on a personal note, as we get ready to close, Steve is a you said food, and that kicks me. I always try to end our podcast on a personal note. You would never know this about Steve. You need to catch on to his. I'll just say this: you need to subscribe to his Instagram account. Go find Steve on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you will see, dude. You missed your calling. Maybe, I don't know. You're like a chef. I look at these pictures and sit there and salivate, man. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I spent some time in culinary school way back when I was going to do the chef thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very early on, for a very small period of time, enough to realize this is ridiculous. I don't like the rules here. So yeah, for me, it's still fun. It's still interesting to play with food and to do things with it that people may or may not think about, or just self-discovery and self-learning with it. Mm-hmm. And it's a very creative time, other than just picking up guns and going shooting all the time. And for me, it's I used to entertain at one of my old houses for years with buddies. I'd throw some pretty bougie, swaggy kind of events, where we'd get guys over and I'd just break out and I'd spend 2 days cooking meals, and having everything prepped ready to go for some events. But, it's a good time. It's fun for me. It's relaxing. And guys are like, oh, when are you going to do a cooking course? So I'm like, I'm not, because it'll take all the fun out of it, just like guns. After 30 some years, this is boring.
Man, I would love to have
absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to have some of what I see. I'm serious, man. I'll look at your pics and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would just.
That's a good time.
So, and he eats healthy too. So
it's a good time.
Tell them where they can catch you on IG, man.
You can get me on Sentinel Concepts. It's kind of an interesting spelling. It's like SENT whatever. TN Concepts, what have you, with an underscore in there. You can look for it up there. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. You can generally find me on Instagram. I don't do too much of the book face because it's ridiculous anymore. It's stupid. It's a time suck. It really is. And if you need me, I'm on the web at sentinelconcepts.com.
Yeah. So if you want to catch a class near you, and I know we do have some folks outside the Kansas City area that listen to our podcast. So if you want to catch a class near you, I know he's from in Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
I am all over coast to coast. For me, the closest to that area, it's like Iowa, Wisconsin, Texas, Oklahoma is that main middle strip for me.
But you
right now
come to the bullet hole, Steve.
If we can make it happen, I will. I absolutely will. I may have some time in February that we can probably put something together. Depending.
Oh. Man, now you got me excited.
So we'll take a look at some stuff. We'll rally back up next week and we'll talk.
Sounds good, bro. No, I
awesome.
appreciate you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your knowledge. Great respect, man. Huge respect for you. And I
appreciate it.
If you do get, he teaches at. And you see where Steve is at there. He teaches on Instagram. The study of the gun. The study of all things accessories from that dungeon right there. This
is part of it. This is the workbench done area of stuff where a lot of things get done.
So if you want to get you have a night where you're just kind of chilling out, and you make sure that you subscribe to us at the Bullet Hole, KC, and you subscribe to Steve, and when he comes on live, you can flop over to him, and you'll be entertained, as well as because he doesn't let anything hold back at that point in time. So
definitely don't.
Yeah. So we all enjoy it. Well, thanks, man. And
Appreciate it, brother.
here on the Bullet Hole Podcast, we always want to tell people to always remember to come in, protect, compete, and learn. And come into the Bullet Hole. Check us out on the Googles, the interwebs, however you want to find us. We're on not only the Book of Faces, but we're on the Instagram and we're on Parlor and everything else. You'll find us. And we also have the Bullet Hole Podcast Facebook page. And I know, Steve, it's horrible. We got the Book of Faces, but it's okay. But come and find us, and also Custom Built Guns. And come and check out Custom Built Guns at the Bullet Hole and our other growing list of dealers. So that's what we're powered up by here too, is Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing. So until next time, y'all take care and be safe.